John Legend was the undisputed king of the kitchen. His restaurant, Legend's Table, had a 6-month waiting list. Critics called his dishes life-changing. One bite of his signature blackened salmon with ghost pepper honey glaze, and people literally moaned. Food bloggers cried on camera. He was a phenomenon. But only John knew the truth. It started 5 years ago in a condemned kitchen behind an abandoned church. He was 27, broke, angry, and working as a line cook who could barely flip an egg without burning it. One rainy night, after another brutal shift where the head chef humiliated him in front of the entire brigade, John stood alone in that rotting kitchen and screamed at the ceiling. "I'd sell my fucking soul for real talent." The air got thick. The fluorescent lights flickered like they were laughing. A voice answered, smooth, feminine, dripping with honey and venom. "Careful what you wish for, chef. Souls are delicious, but I prefer something more flavorful." A woman stepped out of the shadows, tall, skin like polished obsidian, eyes glowing faint red. She wore a pristine white chef's coat that somehow looked more expensive than anything John had ever touched. Her name was Echo. She offered him a deal: unlimited culinary genius, recipes that would make gods weep, the ability to taste emotions in ingredients, perfect instinct, fame, money, respect. The price? His body would never be fully his again. And every time he cooked or even thought about cooking, she would be there, in his head, in his hands, whispering, judging, controlling. John laughed in her face and signed the invisible contract with his own blood from a cut on his finger. The first month was heaven. Recipes poured into his mind like water. His hands moved with impossible precision. His very first solo dish made his landlord cry and offer free rent for a year. Word spread fast. John Legend was born. But Echo never shut up. Even now, years later, as he stood in the gleaming kitchen of his flagship restaurant at 2 a.m. doing final prep for tomorrow's service, her voice slithered into his skull like smoke. "More salt on those ribs, you tasteless heathen. Are you trying to embarrass me in front of the carrots?" John gritted his teeth and added salt. "Good boy. Now stop breathing like a dying walrus and focus. These scallops deserve better than your basic-ass energy." The worst part wasn't the constant criticism, it was the control. Echo loved to play. A heavy cast-iron pan suddenly levitated off the stove, spun lazily in the air, and gently set itself down exactly where John needed it. Knives danced across the cutting board, slicing shallots with perfect precision while John's hands were busy elsewhere. Spice jars floated to him like obedient pets. To any outsider, it would look like magic. To John, it felt like possession. "Echo, I swear to God," he muttered. "God's not in the building, baby. I am. And you're behind on the demi-glace. Move those hips, Legend. Chop, chop." A wooden spoon flew across the kitchen and smacked him lightly on the arse. He yelped. Echo's laughter echoed inside his skull, rich, feminine, and deeply satisfied. The scariest moments weren't in the kitchen. They were at 3 a.m. when John was trying to sleep. He'd lie in bed, exhausted, and feel her presence settle over him like a second skin. Cold, intimate, invasive. "You're thinking about her again," Echo would whisper, voice soft and poisonous. "That ex who said your food tasted like regret. Want me to visit her? I could make her dream about your knife skills." John would squeeze his eyes shut and beg her to stop. Sometimes she did. Sometimes she made the pots and pans in his kitchen rattle all night like a demonic orchestra until he got up and cooked something just to calm her down. Last week was the worst. A famous food critic had come in unannounced. John was nervous. Echo was thrilled. As he plated the signature dish, Echo took over completely. His hands moved without his permission, elegant, precise, almost loving. The plate came out looking like art. The critic took one bite and actually moaned. Then Echo spoke through John's mouth, in front of the entire dining room, using his voice, but with her unmistakable sassy lilt. "You're welcome, darling. Try not to come on the table next time." John froze in horror. The critic choked. Echo laughed so hard inside his head that John got a nosebleed. He barely made it to the back alley before throwing up. That night, alone in his apartment, John finally broke. "Echo, what do you really want?" The lights dimmed. All his cookware slowly rose into the air, circling him like a metallic storm. Her voice dropped the sass for once. It became low, ancient, hungry. "I was a chef once too, John. They burned me alive for making food that tasted too good, too divine. They called it witchcraft. A knife floated inches from his throat. Now I get to cook through you. I get to taste everything again. And every time someone moans over your food, I feel alive again. The knife gently kissed his neck, leaving a thin red line. So keep cooking, legend. Keep feeding me, or I'll start wearing you full time. John stood there shaking as the cookware gently settled back into place. He understood now. He wasn't a chef. He was a vessel, and Echo was never going to let him go. She was in his head, in his hands, in every perfect dish he created. And sometimes, late at night when the restaurant was empty, customers walking past would swear they heard two voices coming from the kitchen. One was John's, the other was a woman laughing like she'd just won the greatest game of all time.